Chưa.
Giới thiệu với ai?
Hello, friends, and welcome back to GDR Today, the place where we take a step back from the noise of daily life to think a little more deeply about how we live. I'm so glad you've chosen to spend some of your valuable time here with me. Today, I want to talk about something that I think many of us, especially those of us who have been around for a few decades, grapple with in a very quiet, very personal way. It's a strange paradox about kindness. We are raised to believe that being good, being helpful, being generous is one of the highest virtues, and it is. But there's a shadow side to it that we don't often discuss. It's that fine line where generosity starts to feel like an obligation. It's the moment you realize that the more you give, the more people expect, until one day you wake up feeling, well, drained. You find yourself solving problems that were never yours to begin with, carrying burdens you never agreed to carry long term, and you wonder where your own life went. We often think the greatest danger in life comes from being around obviously bad people, the ones who are overtly selfish or cruel. But I've come to believe that sometimes the more subtle danger comes from the good people, the people we love, who, without any malice, quietly siphon away our energy, our time, and our peace of mind. They don't steal your wallet, they steal your emotional bandwidth. And so the question I want to explore with you today is this: when does helping someone else start to hurt yourself? And more importantly, how do you draw that line without being consumed by guilt? Because protecting your boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. Think about this for a moment. Every single time you say yes to someone else's request, you are, by default, saying no to something for yourself. That's not a poetic idea, it's a law of physics. Energy is a finite resource. When you spend your afternoon helping a friend move, you are saying no to an afternoon of rest for yourself. When you spend your emotional energy calming a relative's manufactured crisis, you are saying no to using that energy to work on your own goals or simply find your own peace. That energy has to come from somewhere, and more often than not, it comes from your own reserves, your rest, your dreams, your quiet moments of sanity. This is a particularly potent issue in our culture here in the United States. We are steeped in a narrative of rugged individualism on one hand, but on the other, there's a deep-seated community pressure to be helpful, to be the good neighbor, to be the one people can count on. We have this hustle culture that tells us to be constantly productive, but we also have a social script that tells us to be endlessly available to our loved ones. It's a contradictory message, and it leaves many of us feeling pulled in a dozen different directions. We learn that saying no makes you seem cold or uncooperative. Setting a boundary can feel like an act of aggression, as if you're saying you don't care. And so we say yes. We say yes when we're tired. We say yes when we don't have the time. We say yes because we fear the conflict or the disappointment that comes with saying no. But what happens when you run a system at full output forever without ever stopping to recharge? Whether it's a car engine, a business, or a human being, the result is always the same: collapse. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And when you finally do run dry, when you have nothing left to give, you're not just failing to help the other person. You've created a situation where two people are drowning instead of one. So let's get specific. What are these subtle, seemingly innocent requests that can slowly dismantle your life without you even realizing it? What are the things people ask for that sound reasonable on the surface, but over time turn you into a shadow of the person you want to be? I want to walk you through 5 of the most common ones. And I suspect that if you've ever felt that deep, bone-weary exhaustion, that quiet resentment bubbling under the surface, or that sense of looking in the mirror and wondering where you went, this conversation is going to make a whole lot of sense. The first and perhaps most common request is for you to carry someone else's responsibilities as if they were your own. This one is insidious because it so often masquerades as love or family duty. You know the pattern. Someone you love, maybe it's your adult child, a sibling, a close friend, comes to you with a problem. Not just any problem, their problem. They're behind on rent again. They lost another job because of a conflict with their boss. Their car broke down because they ignored the check engine light for 6 months. And they present this situation not as a consequence of their choices, but as an emergency that has befallen them, and by extension, you. They say things like, "I just don't know what I'm going to do," with a tone that implies, "What are we going to do?" Because you're a good person, because you've always been the reliable one, you step in. You offer advice. Then you offer to help them look for a new apartment. Then you offer to co-sign the lease. Before you know it, what started as a single act of help has morphed into a permanent management position in their life. A position you never applied for and are not getting paid for. You find yourself making their phone calls, editing their resume for the 10th time, fronting them money for their security deposit while your own retirement account languishes. And they, in turn, are free to continue the pattern of behavior that created the problem in the first place, secure in the knowledge that you will always be there to clean up the mess. The truly maddening part is what happens when you try to gently pull back. The moment you suggest that maybe, just maybe, they should start taking ownership of these things themselves, you're met with shock, with hurt feelings. You're accused of being cold, of not caring. "I can't believe you'd say that to me, knowing how much I'm struggling," they might say. They frame your attempt at setting a boundary as an act of abandonment. But let me ask you a question. When did their inability to manage their own adult life become your life sentence? Because that's what it becomes, doesn't it? You sacrifice your peace, your financial security, your own plans, all so they can continue to avoid the very lessons life is trying to teach them. I think of it like this. You're hiking a trail and you're carrying your own backpack. It's heavy enough, filled with your job, your mortgage, your health, your own worries. Then someone you love comes along and says, "Hey, can you carry my backpack for me, just for a little while?" And you do, because you're kind. But then they never ask for it back. And soon you're hunched over, struggling under the weight of 2 backpacks, while they walk freely ahead, unburdened, expecting you to keep up. That isn't helping. That's enabling, and it's a subtle form of exploitation dressed up as a loving relationship. The people who will walk away from you when you set a boundary are the very same people who were never truly with you in the first place. They were with what you could provide. Your life is not a permanent rescue mission for adults who refuse to learn how to swim. The most loving thing you can do for them and for yourself is to hand them back their backpack and trust that they have the strength to carry it. They say things like, "I just don't know what I'm going to do," with a tone that implies, "What are we going to do?" Because you're a good person, because you've always been the reliable one, you step in. You offer advice. Then you offer to help them look for a new apartment. Then you offer to co-sign the lease. Before you know it, what started as a single act of help has morphed into a permanent management position in their life. A position you never applied for and are not getting paid for. You find yourself making their phone calls, editing their resume for the 10th time, fronting them money for their security deposit while your own retirement account languishes. And they, in turn, are free to continue the pattern of behavior that created the problem in the first place, secure in the knowledge that you will always be there to clean up the mess. The truly maddening part is what happens when you try to gently pull back. The moment you suggest that maybe, just maybe, they should start taking ownership of these things themselves, you're met with shock, with hurt feelings. You're accused of being cold, of not caring. "I can't believe you'd say that to me, knowing how much I'm struggling," they might say. They frame your attempt at setting a boundary as an act of abandonment. But let me ask you a question. When did their inability to manage their own adult life become your life sentence? Because that's what it becomes, doesn't it? You sacrifice your peace, your financial security, your own plans, all so they can continue to avoid the very lessons life is trying to teach them. I think of it like this. You're hiking a trail and you're carrying your own backpack. It's heavy enough, filled with your job, your mortgage, your health, your own worries. Then someone you love comes along and says, "Hey, can you carry my backpack for me, just for a little while?" And you do, because you're kind. But then they never ask for it back. And soon you're hunched over, struggling under the weight of 2 backpacks, while they walk freely ahead, unburdened, expecting you to keep up. That isn't helping. That's enabling, and it's a subtle form of exploitation dressed up as a loving relationship. The people who will walk away from you when you set a boundary are the very same people who were never truly with you in the first place. They were with what you could provide. Your life is not a permanent rescue mission for adults who refuse to learn how to swim. The most loving thing you can do for them and for yourself is to hand them back their backpack and trust that they have the strength to carry it. This often leads directly to the second major drain, the request for money that is never meant to be returned. Few things can poison a relationship faster than a loan that turns into a gift without your consent. It starts innocently enough. A friend or family member is in a bind. They've had an unexpected medical bill, or their freelance work has dried up for a month. They need a few hundred, maybe $1,000 just to get through. And they promise, they absolutely swear they will pay you back as soon as their tax refund comes in, or as soon as they get their next big project. You lend it to them because you want to help, because you believe them, because you think, if I were in their shoes, I would hope someone would do the same for me. And for a moment, it feels good. You've been the hero. You've eased their burden. But then a strange thing happens. The date they promised to pay you back comes and goes. Silence. When you gently, awkwardly bring it up, they look wounded. They remind you of how much they're still struggling. They make you feel cheap for even mentioning it. Or they make a new promise. "Oh, right, I'm so sorry. Things have been crazy. Definitely next month." But next month never comes. And now something has fundamentally shifted in the relationship. A tension has been introduced. Every time you see them, a part of your brain is thinking about the money, and they know you're thinking about it. To avoid the discomfort, they might start avoiding you. Or worse, they act as if the transaction never happened. And the most audacious of them will, after months of non-payment, ask to borrow more. Here's the hard truth we need to internalize. When someone repeatedly borrows money with no concrete plan or demonstrated effort to repay it, they are not borrowing, they are taking. And they are counting on your discomfort with conflict to get away with it. They know you don't want to seem petty or materialistic. They know you value the relationship more than the money, so they leverage your decency against you. But if they truly valued the relationship, would they put you in such an awkward and unfair position? If they truly respected you, would they make a promise they had no intention of keeping? Of course not. What they're implicitly saying is that their immediate comfort is more important than your long-term financial health, that their wants are more important than your needs. You have worked too hard, sacrificed too much to become an ATM for someone else's poor financial habits. Now, am I saying you should never help someone in a genuine one-time crisis? No. There's a world of difference between helping someone after a sudden job loss and funding someone's chronic inability to live within their means. A true emergency is an anomaly. A pattern of financial mismanagement is a behavior. And your money will never fix their behavior. It will only postpone the day they have to face it themselves. You can offer help in other ways. You can help them create a budget. You can point them toward free financial counseling resources. But handing over your hard-earned cash without a written agreement and a realistic expectation of repayment isn't kindness. It's setting yourself and the relationship on fire. But not all requests are for something as tangible as money or time. Some are far more subtle. This brings me to the third thing people will demand of you: that you choose sides in conflicts that have absolutely nothing to do with you. This is a special kind of emotional quicksand. It usually happens within families or tight-knit groups of friends. Your two siblings are locked in a decades-long feud over something that happened at a holiday dinner in 1998. Your two best friends are going through a messy breakup, and both are demanding your loyalty. Your parents are having a disagreement, and each one is calling you separately to complain about the other. They come to you one by one, presenting their case like a lawyer in a courtroom. They recount every perceived slight, every injustice, every piece of evidence that proves they are right and the other person is a monster. And then comes the trap, the terrible no-win question. So, you see why I'm so upset, right? You're on my side, aren't you? What a horrible position to be put in, because the moment you answer, you lose. If you side with person A, you have now alienated person B, perhaps permanently. If you try to remain neutral, you are often accused by both sides of not caring enough, of being disloyal. If you're not with me, you're against me, is the toxic logic they employ. And if you dare to play the mediator, you usually end up as the common enemy, blamed by everyone when your attempts at peace inevitably fail. Let's be clear about what's happening here. When people do this, they aren't seeking your wisdom. They are seeking validation. They want an ally. They want you to co-sign their anger and confirm their victimhood. By pulling you into their drama, they are trying to build an army, to win the argument not by being right, but by having more people on their side. But your emotional well-being is not a pawn in their personal chess game. What do you actually gain by getting involved? A brief moment of feeling needed, followed by an eternity of navigating tension at every family gathering. Meanwhile, you lose your peace. You lose your neutrality. You lose the ability to love both people as individuals, because your relationship with each is now colored by their conflict with the other. Your job is not to referee fights between grown adults. Your job is not to be the judge and jury for disputes that predate your involvement. There's an old piece of wisdom that says when two people are fighting, the third person who gets involved is the one who gets hurt. It's true. So the answer, while difficult, is simple. You don't play. When someone comes to you with their story, you listen with compassion. You can say, "That sounds incredibly painful," or "I'm so sorry you're going through that." You validate their feelings, but you do not validate their position over the other person's. You must create a firm, loving boundary. A simple, "I love you both, and because of that, I am not going to get in the middle of this. This is between you two to work out." They may not like that answer. They may try to guilt you, but you must hold that line. You are respecting them by trusting them to handle their own relationships. And more importantly, you are respecting yourself by refusing to be used as a weapon in someone else's war. Even when you manage to stay out of their conflicts, some people will ask for something even more personal. This is the fourth request, and it's a deeply invasive one. They will ask you to change who you are to make them more comfortable. This is a tough one because it's so often framed as being for your own good. It's your adult children being embarrassed by your taste in music or the way you dress. "Mom, nobody wears that anymore. It's so dated." It's a partner who wishes you were less opinionated or less passionate about your weird hobbies. "Do we have to talk about your gardening club again? It's kind of boring." It's friends who subtly mock your decision to go back to school or start a new business late in life, suggesting you should just relax and act your age. The underlying message, whether spoken or unspoken, is always the same. You are wrong. Your authentic self is somehow inconvenient, embarrassing, or not good enough. And if you would just change, just sand down your rough edges, just conform to their idea of what you should be, then everything would be better. Better for whom? That's the question you have to ask. When someone pressures you to change a fundamental part of your personality, your interests, or your style, they are not thinking about your happiness. They are thinking about their own comfort. Your authenticity is making them feel awkward or insecure, and rather than examine their own feelings, it's easier to demand that you change. They are asking you to wear a mask so they don't have to look at your real face. They are asking you to trade your authenticity for their approval. And let me tell you, that is a terrible trade. Who are you without your quirks, your passions, your hard-won opinions? You are a hollowed-out version of yourself, performing for an audience of one. The irony is that the people who demand you change are often the ones who are most resistant to change themselves. They operate from a fixed, narrow view of the world and expect everyone else to fit into it. You have lived long enough. You have survived enough, learned enough, and experienced enough to know who you are. The opinions of others are just that, opinions. They are not facts. They are not laws. They are just thoughts happening in someone else's head, and you are under no obligation to rearrange your life to suit them. Now, this is not an argument against growth. Growth is essential. Evolving, learning, and adapting are signs of a life well lived. But there is a universe of difference between changing from a place of internal desire, because you want to become a better, wiser, or healthier person, and changing from a place of external pressure because you fear someone else's disapproval. One is an act of self-love. The other is an act of self-abandonment. You have earned the right to be who you are. You've earned those gray hairs, those opinions, that eccentric love for old movies or loud music. If someone in your life cannot handle the full, authentic, unapologetic version of you, then the problem is not with you. The problem is that they love an idea of you more than they love the actual you. And you are far too old and have come too far to audition for a role in your own life. This brings us to the fifth and final request, which is perhaps the most subtle and all-encompassing of them all. People will ask you to sacrifice your peace for their comfort. This isn't a direct ask. It's an atmosphere. It's an expectation. It's the friend who is in a constant state of drama and treats you as their 24/7 on-call therapist. They text you novels of despair at 11 at night and get offended if you don't reply immediately. They call you to rehash the same problem for the 100th time, not for advice, because they never take it, but just to dump their anxiety onto you so they can feel lighter for a few hours, leaving you to carry the weight. It's the family member whose life is a series of poor choices, and they expect you to be in a constant state of worry and readiness right alongside them. Your emotional state is expected to mirror theirs. If they are in crisis, you must also be in crisis mode. Your calm, your contentment feels like a betrayal to them. What they are implicitly asking is for you to set your own peace on fire to keep them warm. They are saying, my emotional chaos is more important than your emotional stability. You must sacrifice your serenity so I don't have to sit with my own discomfort. That is not a reasonable request. It is emotional tyranny. And we must be crystal clear on this point. You cannot carry another person's emotional burdens without eventually collapsing under the weight. You cannot fix their unhappiness. You cannot love them enough, support them enough, or sacrifice enough to make them whole. That deep internal work of finding peace belongs to them and only to them. By constantly absorbing their anxiety, you are robbing them of the opportunity and the necessity of learning to regulate their own emotions. You become an emotional crutch, and they will lean on you until you both fall over. Your peace of mind is the most valuable asset you own. It is the soil from which everything else in your life grows: your health, your relationships, your creativity. It is not a luxury, it is a necessity, and you must protect it fiercely. This doesn't mean you become a cold, unfeeling robot. It means you love people from a place of wholeness, not from a place of depletion. It means you can be a compassionate listener without becoming a receptacle for their unending negativity. You can care about them without caring for them. So, how do we do this? How do we say no when we've spent a lifetime saying yes? You do it with love, but you do it with firmness. You don't need to offer a 20-page dissertation justifying your decision. A simple, "I'm not able to do that," or "I don't have the emotional capacity to discuss this right now," is a complete sentence. You state your boundary, and then you hold it. And here's the secret nobody tells you. The people who truly respect you will accept your boundaries. They may not love them at first, they might be disappointed, but they will respect your right to have them. And the people who throw a fit, who guilt trip you, who accuse you of being selfish, well, they've just given you an invaluable piece of information. They've shown you that they were never interested in a relationship with you, only in what you could do for them. You have lived long enough to know that your time is finite, your energy is precious, and your peace, once lost, is incredibly difficult to reclaim. So guard it. Refuse to hand it over to anyone who does not cherish it as much as you do. Your life belongs to you, not to their expectations, not to their demands, not to their comfort. It belongs to you. And perhaps the most powerful, radical thing you can do at this stage of your life is to finally, fully, and unapologetically live it on your own terms. If this conversation resonated with you today, it's probably because you've been that person, the helper, the fixer, the reliable one. And maybe it's time to start directing some of that fierce energy inward to protect your own well-being. If that idea feels important, I would be grateful if you'd take a moment to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps these conversations reach more people who might need to hear them. And I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to draw a difficult line with someone you love? How did you do it? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Thank you again for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to GDR today so we can continue these deeper conversations together. Until next time, be kind to others, but please don't forget to be kind to yourself first.